So, until this point, you've walked the traditional path, a path that was written down for you by people you don't know, you haven't even met them, neither have they met you, but you walk their path. Education, job, pension, death. The truth is that death actually occurs much earlier than that. Death occurs when you stop growing. And in the traditional career, in a regular 9 to 5 that 99% of people work in, there is a ceiling to your growth. And that is where death actually begins. That is where death happens, when you stop flourishing, when you stop learning new skills, trying new activities, putting together these skills in creative ways to try new structures and strategies, learning new knowledge and applying it. That is why we are human, to do exactly that. We are meant to fight and to write poetry and to ride horses and to fly and to swim and to make love and to hate and to rage and to bleed and to cry. That is what entrepreneurship is to me. Trying out all these creative ideas, combining them in new ways to market, new ways to fulfill projects, new ways to connect with clients, new ways to connect with your employees, new ways to speak to people so that they can feel your raw emotion and actually want to buy from you, instead of a faceless brand that creates no emotion, or some faceless business that doesn't make you feel anything. To me, that is entrepreneurship. That's why I'm doing all of this. So far it's working, thank God. Right now, the traditional path is set for you. You go to high school, then you get a degree from university, then you get a job, maybe you switch a position or two, and then you work until you're 80 and old and shriveled. And that traditional path is what most people follow. But I decided to go on a different path because it lacks Lamborghinis and adventure, and it feels fucking depressed, to be honest. In this video, I will show you exactly how you can open up your own company and you can start your own business and you can be an entrepreneur right after you graduate university. So right after I graduated university, I opened up my own software company, and right now, just this week, I signed a new client that is paying me a 4,000 euro retainer every month for 3 years ahead, and I have complete locational time freedom, and I work from here, I work from home. This is my bedroom, and I can go around and I can work whenever and however I want. As long as the clients are happy, don't get me wrong, this is not complete freedom. This is not a way to print money out of thin air. Of course, you still have to sit down and do the work, but the conditions are so much better because most people, they beg for unpaid internships. They spend hours and hours on their CV. They end up restrained, caged. If some relative is sick and needs to go to the hospital, they can't leave the workplace to go and care for them. They need to ask for the boss's permission. And you have another man owning your time and your freedom. If you want to earn more money, well, bad news, your salary is capped. You can't decide to just double your salary in a month or two. They won't allow you. But as an entrepreneur, you can do that. You just work weekends, you promote your work more, and you just get another client. Then you have 2 clients instead of 1, and suddenly your income is doubled. The scaling is infinite. And you end up from being caged and controlled to having complete freedom, being in control. And I managed to do that because I followed 3 exact steps. And I'm going to tell you what they are and how you can follow them and how you can apply them to your own lives, and you can have your own company and you can make as much money as you like. Now, I'm not making the most money in the world, of course. Having a client at a 4,000 euro retainer is not the biggest money in the world, but as a 23-year-old fresh out of university, it's enough to fuel my life. I can scale infinitely, and that is the best part. It opens up this ceiling, and suddenly you can work as much as you want. You can grow as much as you want. If you learn new skills, you can apply them directly, and then you can get more money out of it. So this way you're growing as a person while also growing financially. In the workplace, you can't do that. You're set for life until one day you're old and shriveled, and then you suddenly remember the dreams you had as a kid of driving a Ferrari and exploring the world, and then you realize that these were just dreams because now you're old and you're 40, and you have to pay a mortgage, and you have to pay out the credit on your car, and you have kids to pay for bills in school, and then you can't open up a business after 30 because you have responsibilities. But when you're out of university, it's the best time to do that because you don't have kids, hopefully, and you have the time to experiment, and even if you fail, then you can still go and get a job anyway, which is what most people do. So how do I actually do this? The first step is skill acquisition. You need to acquire skills so that people will actually want to pay you for them, of course. You can't be a jackass, have no skills and not a single proficiency in anything, and then expect people to pay you. You can't cheat people out of money. Not in a long enough time frame anyway for it to matter. So you need to acquire skills. While I was still in university, I worked as a software developer, first as a junior, then as a media. And I was pretty well paid in that environment as well as a media software developer. I worked for 2 years in a company creating marketing apps for a marketing agency in the Netherlands. The pay was nice. The conditions were nice, but I had to go to the office every other day or so, 1 hour in a commute in trains stacked full of people that were also doing the same journey to their offices. You could smell the desperation in the air. I was looking around, looking at all these chubby, bald men in these sweaty shirts going to the office so they could please their boss. And I got scared. I didn't want that to happen to me. So while I was still working my 9 to 5, I started developing my own ideas for my own business in my 5 to 10 after work, waking up early. Even before that, from 7 to 9, then 9 to 5 you do the work that sustains your life and pays the bills. Then again, 5 to 10 you work on what's going to set you free. So you acquire skills in a real work environment, and the time outside of that 9 to 5, that day job, you learn to apply those skills and grow them and combine them in creative ways. So I was doing programming, I was doing coding, doing marketing apps. Then I decided, why don't I learn marketing myself? So in the early morning and the late night, I started learning copywriting. I started learning sales. I started learning branding. So then I could package my coding skills and sell them and promote them and market them themselves to other companies, because this is, at the end of the day, this is a business. It's two things. You have a service, then you have a marketing so other people learn of that service and you make them want to buy it. You always need marketing and sales. If you're not sure where to start with these skills. But you also need a core service to sell. That's where the skill acquisition steps comes in. So you need to actually work a 9 to 5 for a time to learn these skills. Or if you don't want to go work a 9 to 5, you can buy courses, you can watch YouTube videos, you can get AI to train you. There's a million ways to acquire skills, but you need at least 100 days spent developing a specific skill for you to actually be good enough to have people want to buy that skill from you. Then the second step is the breakout. That's the breakout moment when you leave out your 9 to 5 and you actually start doing business. The smart thing to do is to open up your company while you're still working the 9 to 5 and find clients so that when you quit, you already have clients paying you and don't risk being on the street and not being able to pay your rent. That's the smart thing to do, but it's not the thing that I did. I decided to quit my 9 to 5, even though they were paying me around 3.5 thousand euros at 22 years old, which is not the biggest money in the world, obviously, but it was a big sum to me at the time. And I decided to quit that comfortable position, which, to be honest, would have set me for life. I would have went from a media to senior, got maybe a large pay increase, get paid maybe 5K per month, then work with that for the rest of my life. I could have done that, and I would have been comfortable doing it. But I quit that job as a software developer, and I decided then I would start my company. Then I would become an entrepreneur. That basically burned any plan B. That means burning the boats. When you go to invade an enemy island, you burn the boat so there's no way going back home. So you either die or you conquer. That's what I decided to do. And I had panic attacks for weeks. I couldn't sleep. I would go to bed and all these thoughts would come up to my mind, thinking about how am I going to get money next month? I'm not going to get salary next month. How am I going to pay for my rent, for my food? Of course, I had some savings, but after these savings run out, what if I don't have clients by then? Well, turns out if you actually have marketing skills and sales skills, getting clients is easy. I spent 1 month developing this company, opening up the firm, doing all the legal stuff, which is the next step that I'll go into. I spent 1 month doing that and I already have a client that I'm working with and they're paying me. So I didn't actually skip not a single salary, not a single paycheck. It happens way faster when you actually put in the work. And quitting before you have a steady stream of revenue in the future actually lights a fire under your ass and you're gonna work like you've never worked before. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't play video games. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't watch Netflix. I couldn't do anything but work. Because I knew otherwise I'd end up hungry and on the street, I'd be homeless. Probably not. I still have maybe some friends or family taking care of me. But in my mind, that wasn't an option. That made me work so hard that I made this work in a month. So how do you actually open up your company? So you have a skill that you've acquired. You learn marketing and sales. This is very easy to learn nowadays. There's so many material online that you have. You can watch masterminds on YouTube. You can buy books. One of the best books for that is Influence, the Art of Persuasion, I believe. The name of the book is just Influence. It's a large book by a professor in the US who actually did all these scientific experiments that were funded by millions of dollars, and he proved the best ways to influence people. And you can use these tactics. This is not cheating, this is basic marketing. You can use these tactics from the book on actually getting people interested in your skill, in what you're offering, whatever it is. So you get the skill, you get people interested in it. You need to niche down, because if the skill is copywriting, well, a lot of people do copywriting. So you niche down in your specific experience. Let's say that you've worked in a pizzeria before. You do copywriting for pizzerias specifically. There's a lot of copywriters in the world, but there's gonna be way less copywriters doing work for pizzerias. And guess pizzerias are gonna want to buy the professional work that specializes in what they do. So you need to niche down in what you're experienced in and go for that market. That is what I did. I didn't just start developing apps or software for any company. I worked for a marketing agency. So my software is niched down for other marketing agencies. I do marketing software. I couldn't do booking softwares, for example. There's experts that do that. I could, but it wouldn't be as good as their work. Just like their work wouldn't be as good as mine in the marketing niche. So you need to niche down and become an expert in a field and target those specific business owners to sell your services to. Of course, you don't have to sell to other businesses. You could sell to just regular buyers, regular people that don't own a business, but you still need to niche down into a specific persona that you want to sell to. So that is very important. So you have your skill, you have your niche, you have some marketing knowledge, so you start marketing your services to that niche. But how do you actually transfer the money? You need to open up a company. Fortunately, I'm in Bulgaria, where that is relatively easy, but from what I've read, it's easy to do it anywhere in the world. Hire a lawyer. The money that you spent on hiring a lawyer is such a good investment for the headaches that it will save you. So actually hire a lawyer and also a financial advisor that is going to do your taxes, is going to do your invoices, is going to do your bills, everything. Because the money that they take from you is such a good investment. There's such a good return on that investment for the headaches that it will save you, because otherwise it's very easy to fuck up. So what I did was I opened a LLC, which is like a limited liability company, which is a company which you can run with basically one person, which is me. I'm planning to hire more people in the future, but for now I don't need to do that. It's going to be extra cash out of my pocket, and I don't need to do that right now. I prefer taking in all the money and investing in my knowledge on how to actually expand the business. But I opened a limited liability company, which is very easy to do. You just go fill out some documents, you pay like €100, and you have a company registered. Very important note, name the company something meaningful to you. I named mine Bona Hereditas, which means a good legacy, which is my entire mission. Everything I do is for legacy, for my friends, for my partner, for the children which I will have, is to leave something in this world, a good legacy. So every time I go to invoice a client, every time I go to pay taxes, every time I start drafting a proposal or a contract, I see that name, Bona Hereditas, and I think I'm doing this for a good legacy, not for quick cash, for legacy, long term. And when you name your company something meaningful to you, your mission, in 2 or 3 words combined, even if you can do it in a single word, that's even better. It's going to be memorable. It creates interest in clients. They start asking about it. You show that you have levels to you, not surface. You don't name your company something generic. You have deep layers to your creativity. So they are intrigued by that. It creates more of a connection, and also it's a daily reminder why you're doing this. It's a very important step that I think most people just miss out, because at the end of the day it's just some text on a document. But for me it's important, and I think that you should take it importantly as well. So you open a firm, a company, limited liability company, you get a lawyer, you get a financial consultant, and then you need to also get a lawyer who specializes in contracts. Crafting a contract is an art in and of itself. All the articles, all the little text. You need to make sure that when you sign a contract with the client, you own that contract, you own the principles of work. Otherwise, you just end up in a 9-to-5 again, where you're working for a client as you would work for an employer. You need to make sure you have time freedom so you can work as many hours, structured however you want. You can work late in the night or early in the morning, and not at all. And that's fine. They need to be fine with that. You need to be paid per deliverables, not for the time you put in, but for the output you put out. You need to be paid for the output, not for the input. That's very important. Owning the intellectual property is another thing. Of course, most clients will want to own the intellectual property, but you need to at least own the project creation yourself, so you can use that for your portfolio, for your marketing, so you can show to future clients, hey, look at what I did. I did this for that client and they're happy and they got these results. So now you can get them as well, which is a big marketing opportunity. This is how marketing is done. You show proof. But if your client wants to own all of the intellectual property in the contract, you won't be able to do that because they may want confidentiality. So make sure that that's not the case. You want to also have the right to hire other people to do the work for them so you can grow as a company. Because if you have 5 clients, sure, you're getting in a lot of money, but then you'll be spending all your time fulfilling the work for these clients. So you need to be able to hire more people. I'm at the stage where I don't need to do that, but I have a clause in all my contracts that if I want, I can hire other coders, other programmers to do my work for me. And I can focus when that stage comes on growing the business and not being stuck inside the business. That's a very important step as well. And then you also need to take care of general branding and marketing of the company. What does it sound like? What does it look like? You need to have consistent visuals. You need to have consistent tone of voice that you use for clients, consistent ideas and themes. There must be integrity to the company and the brand that you open. So just when people see your post on LinkedIn, they know it's from you. For me, I found all my clients organically through organic content that I made, which was like short videos or just images of projects I've done with good copywriting, good text. You'd be surprised how well that works. I spent 2 or 3 weeks posting organic content 3 or 4 times per week. So that's around 15, 16 pieces of organic content of just posts I made, pictures with text. And I got clients out of that reaching out to me, wanting to give me their money so they would get my exact skill set. But that's because I niched down very carefully. I learned copywriting, I learned influence, and I knew how to touch on all the psychological triggers. So it's very important that you do that as well. Once you have that, once you have skill set, you know how to market it to a specific niche, you open a company and start doing contracts where you own the work, then you're free. Then you can wake up whenever you want, however you want, wherever you want. You can work for as much as you want. You can have periods where you work less and you go out and enjoy the sun and go on the beach and drink coffee with your girl, which is, I have those periods too. And you can also have periods where you can work your ass off. You can work weekends, you can work late nights with noise cancelling headphones, a lot of caffeine, a lot of techno music, and you just lock in and you make a shitload of money. That's possible when you're an entrepreneur, once you own this structure. And the most important takeaway that I want you to take away from this video is that you must start now. Because this psychology of being either an employee or an entrepreneur stacks up and compounds over time, like with anything. The first year is fine, but then you're slowly going to get into the second and third year of you being an employee, of you working a 9 to 5, then it's going to become your identity, that job that you work. Then by the fifth year, well, you have set your life standard around that salary. It's going to be very hard to break out of that. You need that salary to keep you afloat. It is a slow cage that builds around you, and sure, there are pillows in this cage because it's comfortable, it's nice, knowing that you get the paycheck at the exact date every single month, which you don't have this guarantee in entrepreneurship. I could have spent months without getting a client. That's a possibility. Fortunately, apparently, God is good, and I'm also kind of good at marketing, so it didn't need to come to that. But you must be prepared for that possibility of you working months without seeing results. There is not such uncertainty in a salary. That's probably the only bonus or the only plus that it has over being an entrepreneur. But for you, this means if you're still working in a 9 to 5, or if maybe you're in university and you're not sure what you're going to do afterwards, it means that you need to start now. Otherwise, you walk this path, this traditional path, and one day you hit a ceiling in your position, in your 9 to 5, where you just won't be able to grow. You'll ask your boss for a raise, but he'll decline. You try to do more work, but you see that you won't be paid more for it because, well, corporations still have to make profit. So at the end of the day, you just stay where you are, in comfort. That is where true death happens, in comfort. If you're feeling comfortable right now at this very moment, if this whole day or whole week you felt comfortable, you're dying. This is what death feels like. This is what death begins as. Go out and make yourself uncomfortable. Have a hard fucking workout. Go to a boxing gym and spar the best guy there. Quit your job and open a business. Go out for a run without any water. Maybe don't do that. But go out for a long fucking run. Longer than you've ever run before. Feel your heart pound. Feel your sweat drip. Feel uncertainness. And then on the other side, you'll be so glad you did it. At least I am. I am glad I did all of this. All these sleepless nights where I couldn't sleep, where I wasn't sure if I'm going to pay my rent next month, they were so worth it. And looking back, it wasn't even that scary. There is a quote, all opportunities only look as opportunities when you look back at them. In the current moment, they feel like risks. So there's any risk that you feel like you might want to take right now, do that.